Hi, everybody. Hope you had a lovely Christmas. Welcome back to the Everyday with Meg show. Today is an exciting one. I'm not sharing any particular topic, but I am sharing that I completed the 75 heart challenge, which is kind of crazy. I even remember when I was thinking about it, yesterday was my last day and it went right obviously to Christmas. But when I first heard about it, of course, I love a challenge. I love a challenge, and this year especially, anything that scares me, I'm going right towards it for some reason. And so when I first started it, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna commit. You start getting into a routine. And so just a quick summary for those who don't know what the 75 hard challenge is. I printed out all these trackers so I could track every day what was required to get it done. And so this really helped me. I had it on my wall, so every day I would see, thanks so much, Rob. Every day I would see how what my progress was, and before you know it, I'm day 1 to 21's done, and I'm okay, next page, and I'm oh my gosh, I have so much more to go. But what's interesting is you kind of find a bit of a rhythm where you're okay, I've got this, I'm good. And then you move into another wave where you're I'm bored of this, when's this done? And then you hit another rhythm where you're okay, I'm back on track, I've got this, I'm feeling really great. And so it goes up and down, up and down. And so I've done a 100-day workout challenge before in the past, but this one, it was 75 days, which the length didn't really scare me that much. What scared me more was just all the things that had to get done. And I feel like I've been training for this the last 5 years, because a lot of the things on the list I'd already been doing, but maybe I wasn't as consistent as I would have liked to be, or things that I wanted to do consistently that I never really committed to. So I'll go through a quick rundown, just quick if you don't know. So you first have to follow a diet, and if you know me, you don't know I don't really love the word diet. So instead I just would say I'm following a meal plan, which means I was just mindful of what I was eating. I was prepping. I was making sure that I was eating balanced and portioned meals based on what my body needed at the time. And so that was a commitment that was something that I needed to do, because sometimes I would fall off track a little bit and overindulge here and there, and maybe more often than I should, or more importantly, I wasn't eating enough for what my body actually needed based on the amount of movement I was doing. So this made sure that I had to be on track and mindful that I was eating enough calories. 2 workouts a day, so before you lose your mind, 2 45-minute workouts a day. So one was inside, and working out in general is totally fine for me. It could be yoga, so on my rest day I would do yoga, lifting weights, cardio, I did running, but the second workout has to be outside. So 45 minutes inside, 45 minutes outside. And I have Toby, so we would go on walks. I started running outside. I was doing a lot more hiking. I was doing just a lot more walking in general, and this is one that I found more beneficial than I even thought. I knew that I wanted to be outside more, and when the cold weather came, this pushed me to, just bundle up and go outside, and it really changed my perspective with weather, where I was just well, I still have 30 minutes that I need to be outside today, so we're just going to go for it. And that meant, walking in the rain, or I would get really bored of the path that me and Toby would normally take, so then I'd change it up and I'd go walk around a different path. So, or try different trails that would inspire me, take Toby for runs with me so he got outside. And I really found walking to be so therapeutic. It really helped me with my mindfulness and my spiritual growth, where I was just checking in on myself. What was I feeling? What was coming up? I'd listen to podcasts when I was outside, so I listened to double the personal development I normally would. And so I think that, especially during COVID, being outside is something that isn't taken away from us. You can go for walks around your neighborhood, and they are more helpful and therapeutic than you think, for your brain and your body and your heart. It's for all 3 things. So I will definitely continue with walks, and more than to just take Toby outside because he needs to go outside. I'll do it because I need to do that for myself as well. Okay, no alcohol or cheat meals, which meant no sugar. And I love sugar. I have a total sweet tooth, so going 75 days without sugar felt kind of insane to me, but I did it, and that meant building gingerbread houses and not eating any of it. That meant having Thanksgiving and not eating pie, although my mom was so sweet and made me a pie without sugar, so it was a healthy pie, which was so sweet. And it meant bachelorette nights where I wasn't indulging in all the goodies that we would have when my sisters and I would watch it. So the no sugar thing was interesting, but it did give me a lot of insight as to how my body's affected by certain things. So I'm okay, certain times a month, how's my body reacting, my energy, my creativity. It's really fascinating how sugar affects you. And And then also, just because that's the way it is, physically, how it affected my body, like looking in the mirror, just the way my stomach even looked, or my arms, like sugar, especially when you're just indulging in like pie or sugars that are bad for you, it's just fascinating to see how it affects your body. And I had to be really mindful that I never judged myself or compared myself, that I was just taking in information and observing my body's results from it without judging myself. And shh, Toby. Same with like cheat meals. Like, what was a way that I could congratulate myself for, making it through a week of eating clean without, eating a bunch of junk food or like a tray of cookies, So that was fascinating for me. And no alcohol too. Like, I love whiskey, I love a glass of wine. There was moments where I would be really stressed and I'm like, how nice would it be just to come home and pour myself a glass of wine, or, and just unwind. But instead, it forced me to have to deal with what was coming up. So it means I was journaling a lot more. It also gave me, Toby, stop. Gave me a lot of insight as to my relationship with alcohol. I think that's something we all need to be mindful of too. Is it consumption because I enjoy it? Consumption, in a social setting because of stress, anxiety, because I want to ignore something that's bothering me. So that was fascinating. Okay, Toby. Take a progress photo every day. Just like in the morning when I put on my workout clothes, take a quick picture. It was easy. It didn't take a lot of effort. And that I'm going to be interested to look back on, weeks worth of photos and see where I saw the most transformation. Was it like 10 days in, 21 days in, 30 days in? Because I totally noticed a difference in my body physically, and that wasn't the reason why I did the challenge. I think that's really important to note, that a lot of people think the 75 hard challenge is like a fitness challenge, and it's not. Of course you're working out, but like it has a lot more to do with your mental stamina and your mental strength and your personal growth. But when you're doing all those things and you're taking care of your mind and your body, there's obviously going to be a difference in you physically. Like, my skin feels so much brighter and I feel so much more creative. I can tell the difference in my body. So the progress photos are just a really nice way to document the journey as you go and see how quick you notice results or how quick you notice changes. Okay, last two, a gallon of water every day. So I have this really big, huge water bottle. I'm not going to get it right now, but like I drank a gallon of water, and people always were like, you drink that whole thing every day? Like, yes, I do. And there were days where I like kind of self-sabotage myself, where I would like forget to drink, and then I'd come home and I'd have like 3 liters I'd have to drink, like, and I'm like, oh, crap. So then I'm chugging and laying in bed drinking water, and I did it. I definitely noticed a difference with hydration, how much more I'm drinking, and I think a lot of us are clinically dehydrated. I've read about this. So I encourage you to even start with like a half a gallon and try and drink it that much, and start early in the morning. Like, have a little goal for yourself where you drink 2 glasses of water before coffee, or when you're working out, and super important. Or I would like make more smoothies with more water than I would almond milk. That was another easy way to do it. Water, don't underestimate the power of water, let me tell you. Okay, and then 10 pages of reading personal development. I already love to read, but this really forced me to have to sit down with a physical book and read, which is my preferred way to take in information and read, is like from a book and highlighting things. So it was really nice to carve out that time for myself, because I think that a lot of us will do this, where we see our day and we know what's coming up and what has to get done, and we'll often take things off that aren't important or that only matter to us, because we're like, no one's going to know and it's not going to matter. But deep down, it does matter to us. So there were a lot of days before this challenge where I wouldn't read. I would do personal development every single day, but I would listen to a podcast or an audiobook. But knowing deep down that I craved and preferred to just sit in my chair and open my book and read. And so it felt really good to do that every single day, whether that was in the morning or before I went to bed. And I would often read past those 10 pages, but it's just so satisfying to carve out that time for me. And I went through way more books, which is even better, and reading 10 pages. So I will definitely keep up a lot of these things going forward, because they're already kind of ingrained in me as habits. And a lot of them were things I was already doing before the challenge. It just meant I had to stay consistent with them. So I'm going to bring out the top benefits. First of all, my skin is so much clearer and like glowy. and brighter. Like I can just sense it. Energy, I have way more energy and way more creative energy too. So there were times where in the past, especially in the past year, where I've felt really fatigued and really tired, where I'd wake up and feel like I didn't even sleep. My energy is so much better. And all these things kind of go together. So part of the reason my energy is better is because I'm hydrated. Part of the reason is because I was more mindful of what I was eating. So every day I was being mindful of the consumption of food, that I was eating enough food. I was more creative because I was consuming personal development every single day in a way that really fired me up, which meant reading from a physical book. I was outside more, which just made me feel lighter. It made me feel more connected and aligned with my vision. So a lot of us have big goals and big visions, and it's really easy to forget them and to get lost and to fall off track and to say yes to things that aren't really in alignment with ourselves. But having to be outside for 45 minutes, whether that was running or hiking or majority of the time just walks, I tried to make sure that there was time where there was just silence, where I wasn't listening to anything, wasn't listening to a podcast or music. It was just literally me and Toby walking, and especially helped walking by the lake, just reminding myself what my vision is, what my goals are, what I'm working towards, how I wanted to feel, repeating affirmations to myself like I am capable, or I am whatever your feeling is, how you want to feel, what you desire. I am mentally strong. I am creative. I'm brave. Whatever it is for you, and just carving out that time to do it, especially when you're walking and being outside. And it also really helped with presence. When we are practicing mindfulness, and I think a lot of you follow me here because you are trying to be more mindful, a huge aspect of being mindfulness is being present. And so I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle during the 75 Hard Challenge. And there were so many moments where I was outside walking where I noticed after the fact that I had just been so present, that I was really recognizing the sounds around me and the smells and what I was seeing, and I was just watching Toby and absorbed in the moment and really connected to how I was feeling in that moment, whether it was sad or happy or mad or angry or joyful or whatever it was. And so those moments of presence compounded over time have made me, I feel like my heart's exploding most of the time, which is insane. Like I just feel so much love and joy and gratitude for myself and for the people around me and my community, and all I want to do is just love on people. And there's no coincidence that is magnified so much, because I just spent 75 days filling up my own cup and making sure that I was taken care of, not just physically, not just mentally, but also emotionally and also spiritually. And it didn't take that much time, because it eventually just becomes a habit. It's on autopilot, and it's not as exhausting or draining because you are just doing it without thinking. Hi, Haley. And that's the joy. I think a lot of us give up. I know a lot of us give up, a week into something, or a few days, or 3 weeks, or even a month, where you start off with a strong vision, a strong why, a goal, and you know what you're going to do, and then somehow along the way you give up. And it would have been, easy for me to give up. There was moments where I'm like, I'm so bored of this challenge. Like, I'm so bored of filling up this huge jug and carrying it around with me all day. But I pushed myself to be mindful in my perspective and to remember why I was doing it, is because I wanted to get to this place here and recognize how I'm feeling and know that it was all worthwhile, and that all this work is then just going to get carried on and carried forward, and it's all worth it. Like, I first started this challenge because I was laying in bed one night back in, when did I start this? October. Laying in bed with a cider, and October 12th, I started this. And a bag of party chips. And I love party mix, and I love enjoying a cider, but it was like 9:30 at night, I think, and I was laying in bed. And I'm like, this is not me. Like occasionally, sure, but, laying in bed, then like, I'm not going to wake up feeling good, drinking this cider and this party mix. I'm going to have like a bit of a brain fog the next morning. I'm going to feel kind of like crappy about it. I definitely didn't eat enough today. I wasn't really intentional with the personal development. And so my motivation, so I want you to think about your goals for the new year, the moment where your day one matters just as much as the rest of them. the day 0 matters. That moment when you're like, something needs to change, I need to shift something. Because those feelings are important, because now I'm going to remember that when I have a moment where I'm feeling like that, I'm going to know something needs to change, and I'm also going to know that it's possible because I proved it to myself. And I'm proving it to you guys that it's totally, there's nothing like that special about me. Like, woohoo, I did a 75 hard challenge. Like, it's not like, but it's just validation that you can do it and that anyone can do it. And it's, if you feel called, then you should do it. And I also think that 75 hard challenge isn't like totally life-changing and game-changing. Like, it was great, and I'm so proud of myself for doing it. But any challenge and any action or choice that you commit to is the life-changing part of it. So if you decide, I'm going to work out 3 days a week and I'm committed to that, and you follow through on it, that's huge. Like, that's amazing. That's your challenge. Do it. If getting outside every day is your challenge, follow through, do it, but you also need to have a why. You need to know why that's important to you. And for me, a lot of my why is the feeling that I'm going to get from the action. The initial action isn't fun most of the time, but the feeling after is what matters most. And then having a plan in action and accountability. Like, I had people set up. I had, like, accountability soldiers where I would be, like, text someone and be like, today is a day where I would really love a whiskey. Today's the day where I do not want to drink any more water. Today's the day where I don't want to go outside because it's pouring rain, but I still have 20 minutes that I have to be outside for. And those are the people who were like, you've got this. Like, you're a badass. You're totally fine. And I made sure that my social media encouraged that same attitude and perspective. The books I was reading encouraged the feelings I wanted to embody. So just set yourself up for success. And that's something that I can totally help you with if you ever were like, I'm going to do this thing, and you just need to make sure I have things in place. Because I've completed a zillion and zillions of challenges now, and I'm obsessed with them. But it's because I've set myself up for success in a certain way that will inspire me. Like, when I say every day with Meg, it's not a joke. Like, every day with Meg. Every day with you. Show up. You're with yourself every day until you die. Every single day. How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? How do you want the people around you to feel? When you walk into a room, do you want them to feel energized? Do you want them to be excited you're there? Do you want them to feel supported and seen and heard and respected and loved and inspired? How do you want these people to feel? Because that starts with you embodying that sensation for yourself. If you want certain characteristics of a partner, if you want a partner who's going to make you feel supported, a partner who's going to make you feel safe and secure, you need to start embodying those sensations for yourself, so that when that person walks into your life, they just reinforce the backbone. They just make it better. And think about the friends in your life too. Like, a year ago, I did not feel this amount of love and gratitude for the community people around me, and more specifically the women around me. And that's because I put the time and effort into it, and because I started treating myself the way I wanted my friends and my community to treat myself. And I just started showing up for it. So that's a lot for today. I'm going to continue many aspects of this 75 hard challenge going forward, but I encourage you to start thinking about what you're going to do in the new year that's going to help you embody how you want to feel going forward. Think about 2 or 3 sensations that you want to embody. Is it productivity? Is it energized? Is it peace? Do you want to feel peace? That's a big one for me lately, is a lot of inner peace and inner joy. And then break down what's going to make you feel that way. And don't look for it from outside sources. Don't look for it for that friend who always has energy. Don't look for it, from me. You want to feel motivated? That doesn't mean that you're going to I can't give you motivation. Like, you have to find that within yourself, and you have to be consistent. I might give you a dose of motivation, and for 5 minutes you're feeling it, but I'm not there with you inside your head forever and ever. You have to keep that going. And so you need to really dissect what encourages that for you in your day-to-day life. And so maybe that's watching some of these videos or reading my posts, but it also is your vision being really clear. It also is your why being really strong. It's also the accountability, the people in your life who are holding you accountable. And it's also the actions you're going to take and how you're going to follow through on them. And trust me, you're worth it. And trust me, these promises you make matter. And the compound effect, it's always worthwhile. Always worthwhile. So if you need help even with goal setting, I have a free goal setting guide. You can just go to the link in my bio and click it. It goes through some steps and some resources that I've been using that I think will be really beneficial for you. It's just free. You can download it. And then my virtual studio in January, we are kicking off January 4th. So right now I'm just onboarding some new girls and getting my clients that are already in there ready with a plan. So if you need that, if you do want me in your ear as much as possible, there's a space for you. And I love you guys. Thanks so much for showing up for me, and I'll keep showing up for you. And have an awesome Saturday.